Baruchim Aboim B'Shem Irgin Shir Yitar of the covered introduce of Yaakov Zev Smith for today's shir on days, months, and dates in Halacha. Whoever would like to have the great schus of sponsoring a shir, call Irgin Shir Yitar at 718-851-8651.
I'm going to share with you today what I call a bracha meshuleshes. It's a sugya with 3 parts, each of them on a geya every single day. And it's a sugya that really is not explored enough, and it's something that's really very gishmak, very challenging. And it also has a shaykhis, it's in Yana Diyayma. It's really, in a certain sense, based on the Parshas HaChodesh that we look forward to learning this coming Shabbos. The pasuk says in Parshas Bo, HaChodesh is Elochem Rosh Chadoshim. This month of Nisan is the first of the months. Now right away it's strange because we know our year begins with Tishrei. So why is Nisan the first month? But the Torah again says, Rishnu lachem l'chatshei hashana. And again, it's strange. Why Tishrei? Why not Tishrei? And also, what's the emphasis on Nisan? And why is that the very first mitzvah? Chodesh Elochem is the first mitzvah. So the Ramban says they're supposed to count months beginning from Nisan, even though it's not the beginning of the year. Kedei sheyazikaron nes hagadol. We want to link and connect the whole year to Yetzias Mitzrayim. So if you start counting the months, and every single month you're counting from Nisan, you are constantly connecting to Yetzias Mitzrayim. Ki v'choleis shenazke achadashim yihanes niska. In other words, we give centrality to the month of Nisan because that's when Yetzias Mitzrayim took place. And then he adds an analogy to this, K'moisha tiya hazachira b'yom haShabbos, b'mnoiseinu mimenu echad b'Shabbos, v'sheni b'Shabbos, kein haskira yibetzias Mitzrayim. Just like we count the days, we don't say Sunday, Monday, or Zuntig, Montig. We say Yom Rishon b'Shabbos, Yom Shlishi b'Shabbos. We keep on connecting it, the days to Shabbos. So too we connect the months to Chodesh Nisan. So we see 2 halachas in this short Ramban. Number 1, we count the days from Shabbos. And number 2, we count the months from Nisan. And they're both the same objective, to make it central, the Shabbos or the Nisan, to give it prominence. The Ramban earlier, actually I should say the Ramban later, in Parshas Yisro, on the pasuk Zachar Esei Mishabbos Lekatshei, quotes a Mechilta. The Mechilta says, don't count like the Goyim do with days, but count from Shabbos. In other words, don't count Hayamim Atzmam, but the first day of the week, today is the second day from Shabbos. Zokt the Ramban V'zeu Pshutei Shel Mikra. This is the Pashat Pshat on the pasuk Zachar Es Yom HaShabbos L'Katshei. Now it's the same idea, and what's interesting, the Mechilta points out something that if you never thought of it, it doesn't occur to you. But the Torah is a narrative, if I could use that term. It's a stories that spans hundreds of years. Every book, every storybook has days. On Tuesday, on Monday, you look in the entire Torah HaKadoshah, you will not find a name of a day. Not in Yiddish, not in English, of course, nothing. There's no names of days. It's Yom HaShlishi. Why is that? Because that's the way they counted. There was no Tuesday, there was Yom Gimel. And it's interesting, that's the pshat of Zachar Es Yom HaShabbos Lekatshei. Shabbos is over just a few hours ago, but this morning we already Mekayim Zachar Es Yom HaShabbos Lekatshei when we said the Yom Yom Rishon b'Shabbos. You know, the Archaim HaKadosh says an incredible pshat. It's a much pashut pshat. Did you ever wonder, the Torah says Zachar Es Yom HaShabbos Lekatshei, which we associate make Kiddush on Shabbos. And then it says Sheish Zalmim Tavoy, you have to do Malacha. It's out of order. If the order is Sheish Zalmim Tavoy, you go to work 6 days, and then Zachar Es Yom HaShabbos Lekatshei. So the Archaim HaKadosh, it's not a kasha. Zachar Es Yom HaShabbos Lekatshei begins Sunday morning. Today's Yom Aleph. Okay, you finished davening and you counted today's the first day of Shabbos, then you could go to work. Then Sheishes Yomim Tavoid. In other words, in our mind, Zachar Es Yom HaShabbos L'Katcha is the mitzvah of Kiddush, which it is. But there's another mitzvah inherent in that, and that is counting down Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, and Yom Shlishi. So Lamaisa, this is, you see this in Mishnayos. I'll give you just two dugmois, but there are many other examples. Beginning of Masech Ksubas, Psulas, Neseis, the Yom HaRevi'i. There's no name. Or Masech Megillah Daf Beis. If it different years, if Chal Liyos Yudalet B'Sheni, Chal Liyos B'Shlishi, Chal Liyos B'Chamishi. Why is this a Chal Liyos on Monday, a Montig? Teretz says there was no days with names. It was all Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni. And the Chayodim in the beginning of Hilchos Shabbos, Aleph Aleph, we're supposed to count from Shabbos, Ki Kedusha Shabbos Nimshechas L'chol HaYom, Ki Amerikas HaEmtzoi. It's like the center that the whole week revolves around. Shekol Yemei HaShavua Yoinkin Mimenu. It's like the source, the generator of Kedusha. And the Charedim, as you know, the Charedim, one of the Gedolei Yisrael in the times of the Ariyah Kodesh, in the mitzvah say Min HaTorah that Efshel L'Kaim and B'chol Yom, Perik Aleph Ois Lamed Gimel, Ikrei Shal HaPosik, to count the days Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, towards Shabbos. Not like the Goyim do, Lunish, Martish, Marklish, but he quotes our Sifra, our Halacha. That's the pshat in Zachar Es Yom HaShabbos the Katshai. You give prominence to Shabbos beginning with day one. And I'll give you another example, which you already alluded to. The Chikrei Leiv in Archaim Aleph Lamed Gimel, quoting the Ariyah Kodesh, he says there's a minig, an old minig, a very prominent source to say the Shir Shal Yom. Now the truth is this goes back a long, long time ago. But there's a prelude that we say in the beginning, Hayom Yom Rishon B'Shabbos Shavay Alvim Hayom B'Beis HaMikdash. Says the Chikrei Leiv, but if you don't say that line, you're losing a lot. Because according to the Ariyah Kodesh, who probably added that line, this is said to be Mekayim every day, Zachar Es Yom HaShabbos L'Katcha. Wednesday morning, Hayom Yom Revi'i B'Shabbos, you Mekayim the mitzvah, whenever you say the Yom, not the Yom itself, but Hayom Yom Sheni B'Shabbos. In fact, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, I saw this on Halicha Shleim Yud Aleph Yud Daled, his minig was, before he said the Yom, he said, Zachar Es Yom HaShabbos L'Katcha, Hayom Yom Revi'i B'Shabbos. I mean, he's talking about Wednesday, but he was remembering Shabbos. Some say he didn't muchen and mezumah to mekayim the mitzvah Zachar Es Yom HaShabbos L'Katcha. That's why if someone, for some reason, has to leave davening early, don't miss the Yom. I saw Chiddush in the Beis Aaron Yisrael, it's a nice shtickle about this Inyan. He says, it's possible that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, who was potter from davening, because Terasem Nasai was not potter from saying this line. Because this line, Hayom Yom Revi'i B'Shabbos, is a mitzvah. He was potter from tefillah, not from mitzvahs. But what to me was an interesting Chiddush, Kayadua, the Minig HaGra, and Eretz Yisrael, you see this in some shuls, that on a Yom Tiv, on Chol HaMoed, they don't say the Yom of that day. L'mashal, Pesach is going to be on Sunday. So most of Klal Yisrael on Pesach, the second day Pesach, which comes out on Sunday, Hayom Yom Rishon B'Shabbos. That's what we'll say. The Goyins had a special shir that was meyuchid for Pesach and Chol HaMoed, etc. But says the Mikroi Kodesh, to Pesach Frank in his Sefer on Purim, Simon Tes, the Minig Akiri Yerushalayim, who followed the Gra, so they said the special Yom on Yom Tovin, but they didn't want to lose the mitzvah of Zachar Es Yom HaShabbos L'Katcha. So they started Hayom Yom Rishon B'Shabbos, stopped, and then they said the special Yom Tov Yom. You couldn't say Shaboy Hayalvim Hayom B'Beis HaMikdash. This is not true. So what did they do? They got the mitzvah and they skipped it. There's the rest of it. It was such a mitzvah that they didn't want to part from. So this is one example of Zachar Es Yom HaShabbos L'Katcha, a daily mitzvah of connecting to the Heilige Shabbos. Now I want to say a question out loud. I'm not satisfied with my answer. I once overheard a Yid sitting next to me by davening. He said, Hayom Yom Revi'i B'Shabbos Kodesh. And it sounded strange to me, Because I always thought, Yom Revi b'Shabbos, the word Shabbos in this context means week. Like Sheva Shabbosos. Now, if you eat kugel Friday night, you say Lekavit Shabbos Kodesh, wonderful. But to say Yom Revi b'Shabbos Kodesh, in the week Kodesh, I mean, maybe your Kodesh, your week is Kodesh, but l'chayre, that's a misunderstanding of the word Kodesh in this context. And the Lashon b'Shabbos also indicates that it's talking about a week. If you're counting down two Shabbos, Hayom Revi Lish Shabbos, or some say it's really starting from last Shabbos. This is one day after Shabbos, but Bish Shabbos seems to be a countdown, not to Shabbos necessarily, but in the week. Now, Lamaisi, you still have the mitzvah. Hayom Revi Bish Shabbos. This is the fourth day of the week, and I'm starting the week after Shabbos, so it's good. But I always thought that the word Shabbos means week. In the Siddur Rashas of Shalom Sharabi, he has this nusach, Revi b'Shabbos Kodesh. So I'm really not sure. I looked in some of the translations. It doesn't seem clear. It seems that it's simply put, it should be going on the week. But if indeed it's Shabbos, it's a little didictic, it's a little inaccurate. It should say Lish Shabbos. But if it means Shabbos, then Avada Shabbos Kodesh would be appropriate. Another mitzvah I should mention of a daily Zocher saying Shabbos the Kachay, the Magen Avram and Simon Samach Sif Cotton Bays, and the Rav quotes it in Sif Dalid, that you're supposed to remember the Zchirais by the Birchas Krishma or Krishma. Lamashal, he quotes the Riyah Kadosh, when you say the mitzvah, you say the Uvanu V'charta before Krishma, have in mind Matan Torah. Uzacharta, as called mitzvahs Hashem, we say at the end of Krishma, Zehu Shabbos. So people that follow this minhag, that the Magen Avram, the Eli Rabbah quotes him also, to remind yourself of the Sheish Zechirais in Krishma every day, there's also a mention of Shabbos, Uzchartem es kol mitzvahs Hashem. But Rabbi say now we have a problem to deal with. Why do we call the days Sunday, Tuesday, or even Zuntig or Dienstig is Yiddish, but it's still not the way the Torah wants? And the Charedim already bemoans that fact. Don't do like the Goyim that have names of days. The Pri Megadim in his Akdama to Sefer and the Treikin is also critical of those that call names of days. You should say Yom Rishon, Yom Shlishi. The Chsam Soif in Parshas Boy, Techachas Musa, that when you write a letter, don't write Sunday or Zuntig, write Yom Rishon, or Yom Rishon B'Shabbos, or Yom Rishon in the Parashat Tazria. But we see already the Gedolei HaPoskim are unhappy when we give names to the days. Now the truth is, the kasha is not on me or you. The kasha is on Gedolei Yisrael. People say Zuntig, people say Sunday. And also, many Gedolei Yisrael wrote letters, or Gedolei Yisrael Zangazut write letters or tshuvas, and they don't even write a date. Had it been a mitzvah to write a date, they should say Yom Rishon or Leparshas Tazria or Yom Rishon B'Shabbos. And the question is, why not? Now the truth is, when you look at letters, printed letters, it's hard to bring a raya what the Gadol wrote. Because you have printers that print the letters, they do what they want. I'll just see one example. It's a meaningless example, but it's an indication. I saw someone quoted a skama from Rav Vosna, Zechariah Levracha, and a big bold letters, a skama is Agoyin Atzadik Rav Vosna, and he spells it Vez, Vav, Vav, Aleph, Zayin, Nun, Ayin, Reish. Rav Vosna's Ksav Yad Chsim on the bottom of that letter is Vav, Aleph, Zayin, Nun, Reish. So the printer added two letters. Okay. Sometimes the Gadol writes Yehuda with an Aleph, and they decide to write it with a Hey, or vice versa. Today printing is misleading. I'll tell you another example. Someone came to me a number of years ago, obviously. He said, Rapama is a lefty? I said, no. I see him writing many times. He goes, I saw a picture, he's a lefty. I says, okay, I'll tell you what shot is. And this, you have to be a little, you have to be a little of age to appreciate this. There used to be negatives to pictures. So when you print a picture, they printed the negative backwards. So you can make a lefty into a righty into a lefty. But the truth is, you'll notice when they print letters or svarim, it's not necessarily the way the Gadol wrote it. So you have to look at Ksav Yad. Today, Baruch Hashem, there are many Askamas from Gedolei Yisrael, the original Ksav Yad, and I looked, and it's hard to find people that write Yom Gimel B'Shabbos. Generally, they write Chav Zayin, Adar. And the question is, why don't we find people writing days Yom Gimel? The Torah Temima, on that pasuk in Yisrael, he says the kash is even bigger. Because in the Torah, we never find B'derech Klal, this way of doing things. So I saw a very Yisaitis Diketshuv from the Satmar Rav Zechayna Levracha, the Divrei Yoel and Arachayim Tezvav. And he wrote this when he was in the mid-40s, and apparently to a Gadol that was older than him. And the Gadol asked him, you write letters, you write shuvas, and you don't write a date at all. Why don't you write a date? You're losing a mitzvah of Zachar Zayim Shabbos the Kachay. So the Satmar Rav writes in Barichas, he said, who said there's a chiyuv to write a date? Maybe if you write a date, do it right, and write Yom Gimel. Don't write Tuesday, whatever. But who said there's a chiyuv to write a date? And if you're writing a date, do it right. That's number one. Number two, he says, true, the Ramban quotes it from the Mechilta. But we know the Shas Bavli says, what's the pshat in the pasuk? Zachar Zayim Shabbos the Kachay? To make Kiddush. A Kachay B'Dvarim. We don't find in the Bavli to count a day starting from Sunday. So the Ramban is explaining L'pshute Shal Mikra, the pshat in the pasuk. But who said we paskin like that halacha l'maisa? And Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, I should mention, Alicha Shloima, he also wonders about the minig hagra that they say the Yom and Yom Tov differently. Either lose the mitzvah of Zachar of Yom and Rishon. He says you're right, because no such mitzvah. It's only like the Ramban. So there's one mahalach that the Ramban says it, but it's not halacha l'maisa. Then the Satmar Rav adds, and even if it is a mitzvah of Zachar, but it's not the only mitzvah of Zachar. We have the mitzvah of Zechiras Amalek. So we do it once a year. Okay, people do it once a day, but once a day is enough. So he said the Yom HaYom Shlish B'Shabbos. That's enough. And Bechlal, he says, even if there is an inyan to write it Yom Rishon, who said there's a chiyuv to go out of your way and make a date? I'm not writing dates. You know, it's not like a mitzvah chiyuv is like putting on tefillin. Now, when you have to come on to information, you're writing a get, a ksuba, a shtar chayv. So there are halachic ramifications from the date. Okay, I understand. But he says a regular letter, a tshuva, why do you have to make a date? So then with the typical Satmar Rav's wit and humor, he says, you wrote to me, and must have written very emphatically, that I'm losing a mitzvah deraisa of Zachar Zayim Shabbos Takache. He says, you have a problem like that the Shlah had. The Shlah, Kayidua writes that an Isha that counts Shiva Nekiyim should say it bepeh. The Safra, you have to say, today's the first day and the third day. The Noid Vihudin Tshuva and Tinyana, Yaredei, Kuf Chav Gimel, he says the Shlah has such an insatiable thirst for mitzvah, such a love for mitzvahs. Niskayim boy, oyev mitzvahs, lo yizba mitzvahs. By the Shlah, Taryag mitzvah is not enough. So he invented his own mitzvah, the Safra. That's what the Noid writes about the Shlah. So the Satmar Rav says, you also made up a new mitzvah, but by me there's no such mitzvah. But then he adds, but there's no mitzvah Zachar Zayim Shabbos Takache. But there's a mitzvah l'shmaya divrei chachamim, so I'm going to sign my name, Maitzai Shabbos Kodesh, Parshas Vayechi, Tafrei Sadik Dalet. Now we'll soon see I was pretty disappointed, because he's finally writing it, he didn't write Yom Rishon. So I'll get back to that. But the Satmar Rav seems very convinced that there's no such mitzvah. At most, if you're writing a date, do it right. But to go out of your way and make a date, so that's what the Satmar Rav typically did not write dates in his letters. Now, after all this, he has a postscript, after he signed his name, that's probably double the size of the original tshuva. And it's a beautiful point. He expresses his extreme reverence to the Chassam Sofer. You have to realize the Chassam Sofer said to write days by Yom Rishon Yesheni, and the Satmar Rav was not going to machavek what the Chassam Sofer said, especially by the Hungarian Gedolei Yisrael, the Satmar Rav Befrat. So he writes beautiful, a few lines, how the whole world is full of Talmidim or Talmidei, Chasam Sofer, and we swallow up every one of his words, every one of his actions, every one of his nuances, and we knew people that knew him, and we try to follow his every step, his every minig, and they're a Talmidim, and they're a Menhogim, and he says, but did you ever see people makbet to write a date and write Yoim Gimel? He says, he quotes the Ramah, that by a Dava Haragil lo re'inu haviraya. Had there been such a Chasam Sofer's mitzvah chiyuv to write a date, we would have heard it from his children, his Talmidim. I mean, there are so many Svarim he writes, and great derech eretz about Chasam Sofer. What he's saying is, I'm not arguing on the Chasam Sofer, I'm not ignoring the Chasam Sofer, but he's convinced even the Chasam Sofer himself didn't feel this is a mitzvah that he gave over to posterity, to his children, Talmidim. He concludes in that tshuva that to use the Goyish date, he says that's a problem. And unfortunately today this is an issue. To count the days like we do it, later Ramban is Osa, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, but we don't paskin that way. But even later Ramban, there's no chiyuv to go write a date. In other words, if you want to write a date, do it right. But there's no chiyuv like putting on tefillin and writing a date. The point is that this mitzvah of Zachar Zeim Shabbos Lekachai is not like Talmud Torah that it's daily, Yomim V'layla. If you do it during the Yom, you Yaitza. Now, one thing I think, if you learn the Satmar of Tshuva carefully, he has three reasons why we're not makbid. Either there's no such mitzvah, we don't paskin like that, or you Yaitza once a day, or it's not a chiyuv to write a date. If you write a date, do it right. If someone were to ask, Lamaisa, I'm writing a date. What should I write? Should I write Yom Rishon LeParshat Tazria? I think so. I think Chacham Leiv Yikach Mitzvahs. Like the 2 out of the 3 reasons of Satmarov, there's a mitzvah. Like if you hold there's no such mitzvah at all, okay. But 2 out of the 3 reasons it would come out that there is an inyan, if you're writing a date anyhow, instead of saying, the Chaf Aleph Ad, whatever the date is, use the right date. You say Gimel, the Parshas, whatever it is. Also, if you do want to use the day of the week, there's no chiyuv to write Yom Gimel, the Parshas Tazria. Because when we write Chodesh HaShlishi, we don't write Chodesh HaShlishi Yetzias Mitzrayim. The fact that we give meaning to Shabbos and we call it Yom Gimel, that would be enough. And this is klar. If you ever look at the Chasam Sofer's Tshuvas, typically, this is a typical date. Yom Dalid, Ches Elul. He identifies the day of the week, I guess to comply with that mitzvah, but he doesn't say Yom Dalid, the Parshas, or whatever. Yom Dalid, Ches Elul. Every tshuva, every other tshuva for sure, is this type of setup. Yom Gimel, and then he writes the day of the month. So it seems that the mitzvah is just to give centrality to Shabbos. So then I understood. The Satmarov said, for you I'm going to write a date, and he writes Mitzvah Shabbos, Parshas, Tafrei Sadik Daled. But he didn't write Yom Aleph. The Torah says, if you write Mitzvah Shabbos, that's also Zachar Shemes Lekachay. Just like people say, when you say Good Shabbos, you Mekayim the mitzvah, and some say, you both say Good Shabbos, the Berheter brings from a shlah to greet someone Good Shabbos, so you're giving Chshivas to Shabbos. So if you write Yom Gimel Shabbos, you're Yaitza. So Mitzvah Shabbos, you're also Yaitza. Now, Lamaisa, we do use the names of the week. So someone asked me, is there anything wrong with the secular names Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? So I'm not familiar, but I consulted a friend of mine who knows these things. And basically, Sunday, of course, comes from sun. They worship the sun. Monday is from the moon. And all the names, and I quote, the gods of Teutonic mythology. Now, whatever that is, it's probably Nishtaka Shmoi. It's gone, because most of us, Ani B'Seich, have never heard of Teutonic mythology. But the fact that it's called a myth. But Lamaisa, the names, I have it in my pocket, I want to see it, exactly the breakdown for each of the 7 names of the week. It all has a basis in Avodah Zarah, but it's long gone, and it's long Nishtaka Shmoi. And that's why there's no Issa to say Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Had it been a current Avodah Zarah, you're not allowed to say an Avodah Zarah. But again, it's an ancient gods, and again, the details, some are God and some are goddesses, and it's interesting, it's almost funny how each name has a meaning. But basically, we're allowed to say Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Chacham Leiv Yikach Mitzvah says Yom Gimel Parshas so and so. It's noteworthy they have an Ezer in Shmois, the beginning of Perek Tezayin. He says, also the Areilim call the names of the week Al Shem HaMeshorsim. And he says Shabbos, even by the Arabs, they call it Shabbos with a Samach, because Shin and Samach is Mischalef. It's only the Indians, by them, the Yom Dalid is the central part of the week, so they start, Yom Dalid is like Lahavdil, their Shabbos. But basically, the names are not Osa, Chacham, Leib, Yikach, Mitzvahs will count the days beginning with Yom Rishon, everything B'Shabbos. Okay, that was part one of the Bracha Meshuleshes. The second part is a little more challenging, because today we live in a world that there's no individuality. Today you come to an office, what's your date of birth? Like your name, we don't care. Or, what's your credit card expiration date? That's the person's new label. Date of birth, credit card number, your name, whatever, expiration date. So you can't say your name anymore. What do you say? 3, 5, whatever it is. The Ramban that we learned, that we began with, says that we shouldn't do that. The Ramban learns the Pasha, that we're supposed to count the months beginning with Nisan, to link the months to Yetzias Mitzrayim. And then the Ramban adds another dava pella ma'oid. If you never thought of it, you will find it surprising, but it's pashit. In Gans Torah Kedosha, you will never find a name of a month. You'll find B'Chodesh HaShlishi, you'll find the word Aviv, which is a description, but in Gans Torah, and most of Tanakh, we'll soon see except for Sifri HaGoyla, but in Gans Torah and a bulk of Tanakh, there is not one name of a month. And the Ramban explains, I know why. Because they didn't use the names of the months, they used Chodesh HaShlishi and Chodesh HaSiri. Just like we do weeks, days of the week, Yom Gimel, there's no days of the week. It's the same idea, it's a dramatic mitzvah, that we don't start counting from Tishrei, Lochem, start from Nisan, to give prominence to Nisan, to Geula Yetzias Mitzrayim. And the Torah never uses a name of a month. I'll give you another example. The Navi Yeshaya speaks about, hopefully, the 4 Taniyos will be in a Hefach, Me'evel, the Yom Tov, Sasa, L'Simcha. There are 4 months mentioned, and not one name. Tzayim Arvi, Tzayim Chamishi, Tzayim Ashvi, Tzayim Asiri. So the unseasoned Bacha that's learning Tanakh and doesn't know much will say, 4th, 5th, where's there a Tainus in the 5th month? I know the 4th month, there is a Tainus. Why? Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevis. Tevis are fast. But there's no Tainus in Shvat, and Shvi, and Asiri. But he doesn't know that the year starts talking with Tishrei. But the months begin from Nisan. So Tzayim Revi is Shavasa B'Tamiz, Chamishi is Tes B'Av, the 7th is Tzayim Gedalia, and the 10th is Zor B'Tevis. Now, the Torah and a bulk of Tanakh, there's no names of months. In Sifrei Goyla, we do find, which Sifrei Goyla I mean to say, those from that are written in Golas, primarily Megillas Esther, Ezra, Daniel, there we do find some names of months. Rather than Esther, Megillas Esther, there's Nisan, Sivan, Adar, and Tevis. But what's important for us, the Yerushalmi in Rosh Hashanah Aleph Beis and the Medrash Vayera Mem Ches Tes says the names of the months Shmois Chadashim Olu Imanu Mi Bavel. It is not from a Torah Dikasos. The names came from Bavel. And Ad Hayoim, he says, this is the Ramban says this after he quotes these sources. Ad Hayoim, the Goyim in Paras and Modai call it Nisan, Tishrei, and the names that we have, the Goyim still use Ad HaYoim Hazeh. Imagine Nisan. We'd think Nisan is for miracles. He says in Paras Amada they call it Nisan. Now what's very enlightening, the Eitz Yosef on that Medrash, in Vayerim and Tes, he says there are 7 months mentioned in Gans Sifrei HaGoyla. Nisan, Sivan, Elul, Kislev, Tevis, and Shvat, and Adar. But all the names came from Bava, but these we find in those Sifrei HaGoyla. So it's very interesting, we attach such importance to the names of the months, but it seems that really it came from a Goyish source. the question is, so if it's a Goyish source, why do we change? We come from Gauls, we bring our baggage with us, all our problems. Why do we embrace a Goyish name of the month? So the Sefer Ikrim in Maimon Gimel, there's a Pliyadik Chiddush. He says that really there was a mitzvah deraisa to count from Nisan, HaChodesh Elochem. But that was only when the Geula of Mitzrayim. Now when we came to a different Geula, there's no longer chiyuv to count from Nisan. Now you could use Goyish months. Before you couldn't, but now you can use Goyish months because now we have a new Geula, the Geula of Galus, which is a Pliyadik Chiddush that the Torah changes. And Taka the Maral and Tveres Yisrael, Perik Samach Dalet, he says, Dovazeh, Bevadei Havoy, it's foolish. The Ein Yaakov in the Kosev, that's the Akdama to Ein Yaakov and Megillah, that's the Marie Ahuhav, who says, also he writes very sharp that this can't be, and they both say the same shat. Marie Chaviv, I should say. The Ein Yaakov, the Akdama is Marie Chaviv. They both say a very enlightening shat. Even in the times of the Torah, when there was a chiyuv to count from Nisan, there was no issa to call it February or call it Sivan. You could call it by a name. If you want to use a number, if you want to write March, so you can write March, but you want to say 3, it's not 3. 3 is Sivan. So even in the times of the Torah, they didn't have names, but there was no issa. So it's not a steer, and Imam Rashi spells it out. He says, if you want to write Chodesh Marchi, April, you could do that. But if you say March is 3, the Taka, the Ein Yaakov gives that mashal. That's the Issa. The Maral also says this, Bavade Havoi, he says, nothing wrong with having names, Chodesh Kislev and Tevis, but if you decide that Kislev is Chodesh Hashlishi, because I want to start from Tishrei, that's an Issa. Oh, so here we see a very enlightening point, that there was never an Issa to use a name for the month. But if you're using numbers, it has to begin from Nisan. And that halacha, says the Maral, that's the Ein Yaakov, and that's Tak halacha l'maisa, that halacha remains ad hayoim because nothing changes. So now we see, I guess, relieving, you're allowed to write March, you're allowed to write the names of the months. But the pella is, when a person fills out a form, or date of birth, or expiration date, or whatever it is, and he writes 3/31, whatever it is, he's being oivan achodesh elochem. And taka the kitzur shulchan aruch and lechem upon him samach beis aleph. He says all the stories and the contracting, all the contracts and all the letters are lashon Russia. You have to be careful. Don't write 8. That's the mashal he gives, because you can't use 8 as the 8th month when it's not the 8th Yiddish month. In other words, Sivan is the 3rd month. That you're allowed to write. But you can't write March as number 3. The Ein Yaakov also is critical. The Mishnah Sechir in Archaim Kuf Mem Dalid, he gives this mashal when you're holding in the 3rd Chodesh, don't write 3. When it's holding March, don't write 3. And the Chayra, to say the Misparam doesn't really help. Say Lemisparam 3rd. The Torah says use the 3rd for Sivan. It's like, people say Nishtav Shabbos Geret, and they say a juicy Lashon Hara. Like you're allowed to do what you want when you just give a disclaimer. The Lemisparam doesn't seem to fit in here because that's not our mitzvah. Now, you'll say Lemisparam works because Lochem, Achoyre says Lochem, for us, not for them. It's not true. The Ramban said a different Pshat on Lochem. The Ramban said the Pshat on Lochem is, even though the year begins with Tishrei, I want you to count from Nisan. Not that Lachem versus Goyish forms. So what's the Eitzah? So the simple Eitzah, when feasible, is don't write 3/31. Write March, or M-A-R, if there's no room for the entire name. That's no problem. We just learned that's no problem. There's no Issa writing names of months. The Issa is writing the numbers. Now, Lamaisa, I take a wonder, if when we write a Yiddish date, we'll write Chav Hei Adar, right? Why don't we write better Chav Hei L'Chodesh Hayud Beis? Don't we have the mitzvah then? Are we losing a mitzvah? The Chaim Sofer write Yom Daled, Yud Ches Elul. Why don't they write Yud Ches of the Chodesh of Elul, whatever the month of Elul would be? So it seems that there's no chiyuv. If you write the wrong number, that's an avla. If you write, for Kislev, if you write Chodesh HaShlishi, that's the wrong avla. But if you want to write Zayin Tes Sivan, and you don't write Tes the Chodesh HaShlishi, it's not an issa. But the Chacham Leiv, someone that's looking at for mitzvahs, this would be a mitzvah. Now, the interesting question that I saw, the Binyan Shlomo, Shlomo Levilla, one of the Gedolei HaPoskim, and Simon Chav Beis in the Tshuvas, he wonders, which we had just yesterday, we bench Rosh Chodesh, why don't we do it properly? Why don't we say, this is the Chodesh, the 12th Chodesh, Ador, this is my 13th, we have the Ador Sheni. But that's his question, if we're doing things, let's do it right. So he has a shtickle of a chiddush based on this kasha, but it seems lamaisa, there's no chiyuv to go write Chodesh HaShlishi. You could write Chodesh Sivan. If you want to count the number, the ik is not the wrong count. But what's noteworthy, the Bnei Yissaschar begins the psicha to Mayim b'Chodesh Nisan, and he writes, Hineni roitz l'kayim b'chiburi zeh mitzvei daraisa hachodesh elochem roish chadashim. And therefore, I'm going to start my discussion of the Chodshei Hashanah from Nisan and not from Tishrei. So he apparently held either it's a mitzvah kiyumis or whatever it is, but the Bnei Yissaschar did give meaning to this, and he started his discussion of the Chodshei Hashanah starting from Nisan and not from Tishrei. Now the big problem is when people fill out dates, date of births, etc., dates, 325, and the boys in yeshiva asked me, so they showed me, look, they have the MP3s, by them it's a kli kodesh, they tape all the shiurim, and it's his program dates, all the goyish dates with numbers. You have to erase it, you have to break it. It's just so unavoidable in the world of technology that we live in. So what I was thinking, and I heard this and I saw this also, that the truth is if you say Kislev is Chodesh HaShlishi, that's an avla. Because Kislev is not Chodesh HaShlishi. But if you say March is Chodesh HaShlishi, it's not an avla, because March is not a month. Imagine someone walks into the shul, I need the yomit. Why? He has yard site. When's the yard site? March 25th. And Bar Mitzvah, when is it? April 3rd. Repeat, when's your birthday? A woman saw the 5th day of January, February, and March on the 5th of the month. Is that a Vesta Chodesh? It's a Litzanis. There's no cheshivas to the months of the year. There used to be, Grada, we'll soon see, there used to be 8 months. Then 2 kings decided they wanted to get a piece of the history, so they added their names. Then Augustus and Julius Caesar got into the picture. They had 12 months. So it used to be 8 months. So 8 months, then there is a month, and 10 months. So if it's a month as a Shem Chodesh, and you say this is the 3rd month, it's an Avla. Kislev is a Chodesh. But the Goyish month maybe doesn't have a Chaloi Shem Chodesh, it's not a violation. Now that's pretty good in Svara, but Lamaisa, the Gedolei Yisrael that asked it, are aware of this. But more so, Lamaisa, we do associate the months. People associate more the Goyish months and the Yiddish months. Lamaisa, whenever possible, it's kedai to write out the month. If you can't write the Yiddish date, let's say you're writing out a form, don't start writing, Yud Zayin Kislev on a date of birth, but you write the March, whatever it is, or April. If there's no other choice, hopefully we could rely on this cheshbon that it's not really a shem of a chodesh. Now, as far as the names of the months, is there any avodah zarah undertone to them? So Pashtus we saw from the Yushalmi and the Medrash that the months came from Bavel. And the way the Ramban's made that they still use it in his times in Paras and Madai. But we know different. L'chayra. We know Elul Lamashal, the place can discuss Elul, Ani L'Doidi L'Doidi Li, and there are so many symbolisms to the word Elul. Nisan is the month of miracles. Iyar, Ani Hashem Reifech. The months have meaning. The way the Pashtus of the Medrash and the Yushalmi is just Goyish names. So it's Bnei Yissaschar in Chodesh Nisan, Maimah Aleph, Ois Vav, nearly, it's negin a chiddush, but the Vadai Shemes Chadashim Niskablu Gamke Messinai. Rakshei B'Chinas Torah Shebal Peh. And he brings a beautiful raya. There are Niskru Shmoi Shel Chadashim B'Targum. And Targum Niskru is Niskablu B'Sinai. So he says, just like Targum, the Torah Shebaal Peh was not given to be written, he is convinced that the months do have Kedusha to them. The names of the months, although it was a secular language. So I could only say, Yosim Mash Karis Lefnechem Kesuvkan, I'm sure there's more significance. I mean, Gedolei Yisrael have constantly been doirish the names of the months. To say it just goyish names that, sound different. It's like January and February. It doesn't seem so. Lamaisa, I would also mention that the secular names, and again I have it in my pocket, all the different, the source and origins, but we'll use a more of a authentic source, the Yosifan in Perik Mem Gimel. He says that at one point there were 8 months to the year. Then there were 2 brothers, Mai and Yuni, and they wanted to become famous, so they put May and June into the calendar. And then King Augustus and Julius Caesar, July and August, and there came out 12 months. But he does say that September, October, November, December, these are Latin words, for 7, 8, 9, and 10. September 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, what's the cheshbon? Because when they had 10 months, so September, October, November, December. Now, the way cheshbon, the Yosifan's cheshbon is that May, June, July, August, and February and April are all either names of kings or benign names. February is like Hachana, April is Zman Oina. The 2 problematic names are January and March. Apparently they're ashamed of Avodah Zarah. But we have to hope that these 2 are also Nishtaka Shmam. These are Avodah Zarah that are long gone. And again, I have this, all the months have Shaykh to Avodah Zarah, but once Avodah Zarah is Nishtaka Shma, he's totally lost, it's gone, it is no longer an Issa. The Tzitz Eliezer in Chelik Tes Yudalet Gimel says, in his opinion, it's better to write the number of a month than to write the name of the month, because the months have a name of Avodah Zarah to them. But Lachari is not right, because as we saw that the Avodah Zarah's names are long gone, if they are Avodah Zarah, most of them are not. But more so, the Paiskim seem to insist that Ad Hayoim we should be concerned not to write out the names, the numbers of the months. So it's better to write out April, AP, instead of the number, whatever it is. That would give chashivas to this Achodesh Alachem, not to use the wrong name, the wrong number. And Achrein Chava, maybe I should say, Ha'achrein Hichbid is the years that we count. I'm going to ask you a very simple question that is extremely disturbing. We have Amunah Shlema, the world is 5,779 years. The foolish evolution, millions and billions, but not negaya, but a lot more. Where did the number 2019 come from? We talk about Arichas Yamim. This is a horrible Kitzur Yamim. They deleted 3,760 years off the map. It didn't exist. So I hate to break the very bad news to you, but this is AD. I don't want to touch that in Beis Medrash what that means, but it's the year of Yashka, and when he was born, that's when the world Klima began, which is Pila Playim. We're counting years from when Yashka was, born, as if the world did not, exist. Lahavdil $1 million. Shlomo Wolbe used to say when he came to Mir. Came from Germany. He's another German bacher there, and he met him. He says, and the bacher older than him. He says, I am 2.5 years old. So Wolbe looked at him. They said, Mir bacher, my alter bacher, but 2.5-year-old bacher. He says, when I came to Mir and I met Rabbi Yeruchim, this is when my life began. I'm here 2.5 years. I'm 2.5 years old. That was the aracha they had for Rabbi Yeruchim. But $1 billion to say that we, El Chayidin, counting 2019 because the world began with Yashka is just unthinkable. So instead of counting Libriya Sa'olam, which the Chasam Sofer in the Drush is Chelik Beis, Amid Shin Tezvav, says when you count 5,779, that's a Chizik in Amunah. We have left the Chizik in Amunah and embraced a horrible Avodah Zarah. And Rav Moshe once commented, that we have a very short memory. We don't know how many millions of Yidden were killed because of Isayish. And today we're using the dates based on his birthday. It's unthinkable. And the Chasam Sofer in the Drashis is fire. Fire about this in Ches Teves, Tavkuf, Tzadik Gimel. V'loike Chadashim, Mikarav. It seemed like it was a pretty new thing. Shemoyin Meleides Meshichim Shel Noitzim. We should be embarrassed on this exchange. Instead of a source of Amunah, we're connecting to Avodah Zarah. And later in Zayin of Tafkuf Ayin, that's Beis Amachin Tezvav, V'leika Oisim Chadashim Mikarav Shekoisim Bereish Megilta Minyan Leidash Nishpshicha Hanoitzrim Koisim V'choisim Ba'atzma, you signed with his own hand, She'ein Leichelik Be'elikei Yisrael, Oilem Ki Gamal Nafshem Ra B'taras Hashem O'asu, V'chachmas Malahem, a terrible exchange. And this is why those that know the history should be appalled by this exchange. And those that don't know should realize that's the only explanation. And just to give you a little of a feeling, the Samseifis Talmud, the Greis Ramshik in Yeredeya, Kuf Ayin Alpha, was asked a very sensitive question, sensitive in the respect that involves Kvoit HaMeis. It seems that someone put up a matzeh without asking Chevra Kedisha, I guess in the city Chusva he was the Rav, and he wrote the secular date. And the Chevra Kedisha were very upset. Without Rishus, we don't have secular dates. What could we do? Can we destroy the Matzeva? I mean, destroying a Matzeva is an unthinkable option. So the Mamshik Kedarki, very much halachadik, he says what they did, they used the Goyish date, is an Aveira Kfula Mechupeles, because that's not the right date. And he says, L'daiti, that's an Issa Deraisa, which is not just emotional, it's awesome. The Issa in Parashat Mishpatim, V'Shem Alehim Acherim Leisaskiru. Now I say the word because it's Avodah Zarah. Shem Alehim Leisaskiru. And the Chazal teach us that you can't tell someone, I'll meet you by Avodah Zarah Plainis. I'll meet you in the corner of that church. So the Mamshik, the Baal Halacha that he was, he says the Torah did not say don't mention Avodah Zarah. Leisaskiru. That's Hifel. In other words, you might wonder, if I write 2019, I didn't say a word. Why am I oivel Shem Elohim Acherim? Teretz, the Issa is not saying something. It's not an Issa Dibur. It's an Issa of acknowledging, of associating, of reminding people, of giving credibility. By you saying 2019, you are connecting to the Leidas Mashiachas Naitzah. Kivan the idea, minyan oil al zikar and hamachshava, you're oiv on the Yisr. It's not a din in Dibur, or Maisa, or Ksiva. It's a din of Leisaskiru, a Hifel. And therefore he says, amazing as it is, destroy the Matzeva. It does not belong in a place of Emes. I'm glad that others also said, especially in a makam of Emes, the place, the basic Kvaris, finally, is a place that all the Sheker is bottled, don't bring in Sheker. But look how serious he took this question. It's a tzoyrich. Today we have a tzoyrich, you have to write dates. So there's a machab about that. In the beginning of Yeridei Kuf Mem Zayin, Asa lahazgi b'shma, bein l'tzoyrich, bein shalei l'tzoyrich. And a similar mahalach, not regarding names per se, but I saw the Beis Yitzchak, the Levavarav, Yeridei Kuf Nun Beis. Very interesting shayla. God, it's very negay when you learn these inyanim. There was a Chashava Bikachoilim society in one of these cities, and they called it Gimel Ayin Aleph, Ga'o, which was a Latin name for Refuah, Gesund. But unknown to them, it was also the goddess, Avodah Zarah, of Refuah. And it became a whole tumult. You subscribing to Avodah Zarah. So they asked the Beis Yitzchak, what do? We have stationery, they printed stationery. So he has the same mahalach. Loisaskiru is it shouldn't be acknowledged, recognized. He says even if here a lav kadibur, but regarding Avodah Zarah here a kadibur. But here you have to come on to that. Because here it's a din of loisaskiru, don't give credibility. So you have to take the stationery and cross out that Gimel Ayin Aleph. He says, Lamaisa, this is an Avodah Zarah. Now he does add, and this is interesting parenthetically, he says if the name is Nishtaka, it's fine. He gives an example. He says the word mamoin that we use for money was the name of Avodah Zarah. But he says, but Baruch Hashem, it was nishtaka. But I think I wanted to remind him that today the Avodah Zarah of mammon is chai v'kayim. But anyhow, that's what he says. The name mammon is okay. But ga'o, it seems, was still prevalent. But this is the point, and it's not an emotional issue, it's pasnished, it's putting a finger on a pasuk in Torah, leisaskiru. In fact, you're looking to get Pashat, the classic Sefer, and Hilchos Gittin, and Kuf Chav Zayin, and the Chiddush, the Levush, in Sif Yud Aleph also says this was way before the get Pashat. Both say that if you write a get with the secular year, could be the get is possible. You're connecting with an Issa. Some say it's also the Issa of B'chukasem Loiselechu. What do we have with Goyish dates? But certainly, Shem Alihim Achem Loisaskiru, this is a prime example of that. In the Archas Rabbeinu of the Stipel in Aleph Reish Lamed Aleph, it says the Stipel was very sensitive to that. And whenever he got an invitation, or any piece of mail that had a postmark with the Goyish date, he would scratch it out. Now today, if we did it with our mail, we'd be busy day and night. I mean, today, anytime you see the Goyish year, but he was so sensitive, don't forget, he knew what the church did to us throughout the days. But basically, the sensitivity to the years, the secular year. 20 years ago, I remember very vividly, made a very big roshim. I once mentioned in a shir, in passing, about using the Goyish year. So a while later, I got a phone call from a Rav, an out-of-town Rav. He had a very modern community. He says, I heard your shir, and I want to tell you that I'm giving a all-night shvuah shir. What's really wrong with Y2K? Now, if you remember, I have to use the secular date, but there was a big fear, a fear of the unknown. What's going to be when the year changed to 2000? What's going to be with computers and everything? The world's going to go, haywire. So he said, I'm giving a whole all-night shir. What's really wrong with Y2K? I says, wow, what are you talking about? He said, the year 2000 is also to talk about. I said, that's what you're talking about in your community? He goes, yes, if it's wrong, I'm going to speak up. I had such a note that he have a Tzmi person, an Elcha person. That was his all. I don't know if he had his job the next morning, this Veisachnish, but that's really what's wrong with Y2K. But the question is, when you have to fill out a form, so what do? They don't ask what the Yiddish date. So the Abiyah Ayman in Yerdei Gimel Test at Tzitz Eliezer and Ches both say a Mahalach that really the year is off by a few years. Now, you look in history, it's either off by between 1 and 7 years off the birth of Oisei Ish. So it's not accurate anyhow, so keep it Batla. But the Debetziner Rav and the Tshuva in Chelik Ches, Simon Yud Ches, and Rav Gestetner, which is Tshuva quoted, I don't think it's not printed in his form, but in Tzitz Eliezer, Tes Yudalid, both say that makes no sense. Because whether it's off or not, but if they're giving Yachas to that year, so it's the same Leisa Skill. That's really not convincing at all. The Abiyah Oima in Gimel Test, same Tshuva, also he says that it has to be the Heta, because we find the Tshuvas Ramah in Simon Nun Aleph mentions the Goyish year, the Shach in a letter, the Chsam Soifa, and Eben Ezra Mem Gimel mentions the Goyish year. So it has to be a Heta. But also, that's very hard to accept. If you look at the Chsam Soifa, he was talking about a Gvias Eidus for an Aguna. You have to write it exactly as the aid said it. So it was given in a Goyish date. Grad the Chsam Soifa writes the Yiddish date and the Goyish date Lemisporum. But stamp to disregard this halacha meichatesa. The Ramah was also writing about a Eidus. The Shach was writing a letter to the Malchus, and the Betzina Rav is very thorough about showing every time that there is a mention of a Goyish date, it's not for no reason. In fact, he's very upset about one tshuva that was Meiko because the Chsam Soifa changed his mind, and the Betzina Rav Mamish is extremely critical, and he shows piece by piece. I'll give you one example. This Sefer writes the Chsam Soifa at Charata because he used the Goyish date. So if you look it up, the date was Memches, 8 years after the Chsam Soifa was Nifta. So, I've heard of, Sifsois of Daiv was V'kever, but not Yod of Daiv was V'kever. So he writes, this was added by the printer 8 years after Chsam Soifa's Petir. So you bring a right, Chsam Soifa at Charata. I mean, if you want to see that nothing changed, take a look at the Ber Moshe, Chelik Ches, Simon Yud Ches, and Yud Tes. But anyhow, what we do seem to see, perhaps, if there's a real need, and you write the Yiddish date and the English date, and you add the Misparam, that is a Makam Lahakam. Because you're giving the right date, you are compelled to give the wrong date, and you're giving a disclaimer like a Shoivrei B'tzidai. And that I saw, the Ber Moshe says this as well, And the Tzitz Eliezer, Chelik Tes Yudal, it also says that if you have to write a date, or you have to speak, and you say the Yiddish date and the Misparam, the English date, because you have to bring out a point, like we said, Y2K, that would be a Misparam. Now some say the word Misparam is enough as it is, but it seems that you have to do something. Now, if you're going to go write on your form, Misparam, it's not going to be very simple. The question is there a heta to write like this year, not 2019, just write 19. What's the cheshbon? Because that's like a built-in bittul. 19. I don't believe in 2019. 19. It's a combination. I can't write the Yiddish date because it's a date of birth or a Goyish form. And I put in like a half the year. So this Deber Moshe, although he's the big Mara Deshmait, doesn't like any coolest, he said, that's what I do. On a check, I write just the year. I think it was 97 it was. And he says, I wrote all my years. And he writes that, I trust me, not one check came back. But he added, if there was money in the bank. It's not as like a school. You write the year and then do what you want. But the Betzina Rav seems to say there's a het if you write the number 19. The Steipel in that Aruchas Vein was not happy with that. But Lamaisa, it seems that this would be a heta. You write just the year 19. Now, the problem is today's checks, they wrote 20 for you, and you only have a little box for the number 19. So I've seen people that write on the top 19. And this Lamaisa, it seems that they're not very makbid. Someone gave me a check to give for tzedakah. I look at it, it says the date is Purim Tov Shenai Tes. I hope it won't come bouncing back to me, but anyhow, but it seems that the year is not so someone told me he has a minik, he writes a year off. I don't know how he says, he never got a check back. That's what he told me. I'm not taking care of chayis of that. But what seems to be a more basic kula, because today we have a problem, you have to punch into a computer, they just leave you 2 boxes. You can't write Limisparim, and or they want you to write in 4, the full name. What really l'chayra is a point to ponder the halacha when there's no other choice. The truth is the majority of the world today do not describe to Oiseyish. And yet everybody's using the secular date. I mean, the biggest pellahs, the Muslims, who are very intolerant to anything else, they also use the secular date. Today, perhaps the whole concept of the secular date is somewhat nishtake. Now, this I know is a big chiddush, but I'm going to tell you where I saw this. The Kinyan Torah in Chelik Aleph Nun Hey, and I saw the Oznidbru and Yud Beis Lamed Ches. The Shoyal quotes of Yeshua Frein, that was the father of our Moshe Aryeh Frein Zechaynu Levracha. I don't have the tshuva, but what I saw in the Kinyan Torah, he says that if you should always write the Yiddish date. But in a business context, that there's no choice. I'm not interested in Chav Zayin Shvat, Tav Shenai Tes. They want to know, they give you a box with the name. When you have to write the Gericht, Chas v'shalom, there should be an Issa of Shem Alehim Acherim, and Leimatzanu Yodeinu V'Ragleinu, because all of business is in numbers and dates. And Chas v'shalom, he writes, the Oivan Lav Deraisa, and there's no Nidnud Issa in business. That's what B'Shul Ephraim, the father of Moshe Aryeh, writes. The Mishmer Shalom, this is Hilchas Machos, also says, Ho'idnad Ho'galnu B'zeh, Ve'enoi Samim Leif Klal Le'eze Inyan Nimna Mispareyem, Ladaiti, he says, if it's not an issa the way it used to be. In other words, today that the whole world goes with it, it just became a business number, but not that it has meaning. I saw that Tzitz Eliezer, Chelik Ches, Simon Ches quotes Chaim, Yitzchak, Yerucham, the Alshtat Rav, who also says, how could this is what he says, how could a person use the secular date when we have a Yiddish date, we have a mitzvah, we have a Torah? He says, if in business you have no other choice, no, he says, we could say what the Chazal tell us, Yisrael shebechutzlares oivdem v'ydazara b'tahara. In other words, what I think the point is, we should be very proud to use the Yiddish date, the days of the week to Shabbos, the months from Nisan, the years from B'yas to Olam, the Chizik and Emunah. The Betzina Rav and that Tshuva writes, I got a letter from Eretz Yisrael, and they wrote the Goyish date. I wrote to them, why do you send a Goyish date from Eretz Yisrael? And he said, you're right. And they changed. People write Torah, they write letters, they should use the Yiddish date. The Rambam in Pirush HaMishnayos, the end of Brachas, writes a Davar Nifla. He says, I wrote something that really has no shaykhis. But Yoker be'enai lalamed ikri adas ve'amuna yoisem mikol asher alamdeyu. I find an excuse to pump some amuna, I'm going to do it. So the Rambam is not embarrassed. He stuck something in just to get amuna. We have an opportunity of writing the Yiddish date. There's a chizik and amuna. In business, if there's no other choice, yes, shall mi lismoich. But again, the chizik and amuna that we could get by doing it right, a guten tag.
Shem Egan Shirter like to be a character of a Smith of today's share. Well, I would like to have the great sponsoring a share. Call Egan Shirter at 718-851-8651. Rav Smith will give a sekum for today's share in 5 minutes. Kan hanje met elkaar zijn, maar als ik alles boven zaken is het zo veel gebeurd met Torah mitzvahs. Shenem alle neer gafes man ziet u agel Torah yade.
Basically, March and 19th March and 19th is like March, and 19th March is not like March is not and 19th.
Not, it may not right out. No, this one is my question. No, like shortening sort of check out.
What's the point? The point was that the number. The issue is the number.
I understand, but
Once you have an age, same as this year is also functioning. Okay, no issue of having because this is right that the third month is March instead of September. Next week is where stuff then.
Sensitivity should be, yeah.
Nee?
AD is not going
AD means year of AD means year of the year of their Lord. Yeah, the year of their Lord. The year of the Lord. Right. The year of their Lord.
No, BC is modification. Today most don't believe.
Yiddish? I get this many products here. That's
In Europe, they do it backwards. In Europe, they do it backwards. In Europe, they mix it. They go say it once first.
the person who got the year off, if it's only 1 year difference when Yoshki was born, then
I don't know. It's like okay. Ready? Simple.
this is still today. This thing is it.
Yeah. Very nice.
I heard it from
What do you know?
Okay, everybody say it's the right year, the right month, the right day, the right time for the Sikkim Reverend Smith. Shh.
Okay, just review what we learned today. The Kitzah Zochar Shem Shabbos Lekache is the mitzvah that we have Ad Hayom Hazeh to give meaning to Shabbos, to give centrality to Shabbos. All agreed is a mitzvah b'mekadesh Shabbos, according to the Ramban, based on the Mechilta. It's also a mitzvah to count the days, Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, b'Shabbos. There's a mitzvah of saying Yom every morning, Yom Rishon, b'Shabbos. There's a mitzvah according to the Magen Avram to think about Shabbos when we say Krishma. Zchartem is called Mitzvah Hashem. Also, apparently, there would be an inyan of writing or saying Yom Shlishi instead of saying Tuesday. It's not done by many people. We saw the Limud Chus. Either it's only a chiyuv to do it if you need a date. There's no chiyuv to write a date, or there's no such mitzvah. Halacha, it's just an inyan. It's just one of the pshatim, but the ikka mitzvah is going on Kiddush. Or once a day is a mitzvah to say Yom Rishon B'Shabbos. The rest of the day you could write Tuesday or call it Tuesday or write Zuntig. But l'chayra chacham leiv yikach mitzvah. Someone writes Yom Gimel. According to some of the pshatim, there will still be a mitzvah ad hayom. At least a mitzvah kiyumis. It's enough to write Yom Gimel. You don't have to write Yom Gimel or Parshat Tazria. We had a tzarech iyan. The simple meaning, the simple reading when we say it every day. Yom Revi B'Shabbos. Is it in the week? Is it Shabbos Kodesh? And you could say Shabbos Kodesh. Nisan is and always will be Rishon L'Chodshei Hashanah. Although the year begins from Tishrei, but there's a pasuk that says we have to count from Nisan, and Ad Hayom, that Chiyuv is still in place. It's better not to write 3/31 referring to March 31st, because March is not the third month. The third month is Sivan. Some of Malam B'tzchus that our months, the secular months, don't really have a Shem month. It doesn't really count. But it's best to write March, M-A-R, or write in April, A-P, whatever, but to try to avoid giving a number to a secular month when really that's not the right number. The names of Bavel, although the names came from Bavel, they do have meaning. Someone added, the Chassam Sofer said that the names of the months will remain in Yemaisa Mashiach because they came through Bavel, they lived through Golus, and they have that Golus Kedusha, that Golus Aliyah to them. The English names of the months are ancient, Avodah Zarah, at least some of them, most of them are not, but whatever the case is, it's Nishtaka, the names are forgotten, so you're allowed to say the English months, there's no Issa Mitzadat. It's better to either say or write March than write out 3 instead of March. The most serious is the year that we use, that's AD, which is the year of Yoshka, and some are very against it, saying, calling it the Reis Hashem Elohim Acherim, or B'chukeseyim Leiselechu. All agree it's very, very inappropriate and unbecoming, and we try to always use the Yiddish year. By a Matzeva, certainly, although I've heard people write it, there must be some Limud Chus, but basically we try to keep the emes, we connect years to the Bria Sa'olam, Achizik and Emunah. We did see in business, if there's no other choice, if you say the Yiddish date and then the Goyish date, Lemisparim, that's mutter. Some just write Lemisparim with the Goyish date, but we did see that if you write 19 instead of 2019, that's sort of a bittul minei ubei, that's also mutter. And when there's no other choice, we have to fill out a form in a computer, and you have to write 4 numbers, you can't write 2, it won't go. We did see a possible Limud Chus today. The year has no connection to Oisei Ish. It is basically a business way of making transactions. Whether you believe or not, everybody uses that. But all agree the best is to use the Yiddish dates, the Chizik and Emunah of the days of the week towards Shabbos, the months towards Yitzias Mitzrayim, and the years from Bria Sa'olam. Like the Rambam says, every bit of Emunah is very, very important. Yes, Rebbe. Rice? Yeah. That doesn't make rice, right?
It's the same way like rice. 6 That's the normal way. No, check it with
Yeah.